Hello fellow modelers, here is a Dewoitine D500, which is a French fighter of the interwar period, built by the company founded by Émile Dewoitine. It was the first monoplane aircraft with low cantilever wings to enter service with the French Air Force. Given the speed of technical progress at that time, it proved to be outdated before its commissioning. This model is well made, but some details have caused me some troubles. Not enough to stop me even if some adjustments were borderline. Reinforcements had to be added to keep the landing gear and flaps in place. That said, it was a pleasant build and the opportunity to add an original plane on my shelters. The notice is typical of current kits, easy to follow. It will be a challenge for me to make a natural metal model. The color of the French cockpits from World War II is dark blue, but since this plane has an open cockpit, I chose to clear it to allow a curious eye to distinguish the details. One of its main features is its huge radiator under the engine. The beginning consists in mainly locate the parts, make dry fits and prepare the sub-assemblies. With a few pieces, Dora Wings has made a realistic cockpit. A little more about the Dewoitine 500. It was 7.7 meter, 25 feet long, 12 meter, 39.5 feet wingspan, 3 meter, 7, 12 feet tall, and weighted 1,700 kilograms, 3,750 pounds empty. Its maximum speed was 370 kilometers per hour. 200 knots. The exhausts are well designed, I just dug them to fit reality. Back to radiator. Photo-etched shutters were tricky to install, then a coat of primer and one of metal paint. When the time comes, I can glue it under the engine. One question has been on my mind for a long time. Use the instrumenting decals or paint them. For now I prefer to paint them white, less realistic but more visible to an inquisitive eye. If the closing of the fuselage went well, for the mounting of the wings, although well thought out by Dora Wings, some adjustments required my attention. It was a plane with many surface details. relief panels, multiple rivets, etc. I had to use some putty and sand here or there. I wanted to recreate as much details as possible, which took a while. It is always leisure. Its engine had 690 horsepower. It was armed by 4 303 machine guns, 2 in the wings, 2 on the hood. As strange as it may seem, in 1937, knowing it was outdated, he participated in a meeting in Zurich where it was ridiculed by a 109 prototype. This aircraft had 5 fuel tanks, 2 in each wing and 1 under the fuselage in the airflow coming out of the radiator in order to keep it warm. Here you can see the stretched sprue I glued under the aft fuselage. In this case, I use cellulosic thinner that melts the plastic even more than liquid glue and guarantees the disappearance of the seam line. The wings were made of multiple longitudinal strips of aluminum riveted together with reinforcement in extra thickness. It is mainly on the intrado that I spend a lot of time recreating the details erased by sanding. Whatever the brand, whatever the model, I find that the trailing edges are always too thick. That's why I sand them from the inside before gluing either the wings or the stabilizers. The horizontal stabilizers were held by 2 struts on each side. It is the reason why I do not insist on positioning them perfectly, knowing that I will glue the struts later. The surface must be perfect to receive the metal paint. I tracked down the last little imperfections with a black primer. I replaced 2 broken struts with evergreen strips. This paint is very fine, the slightest defect is obvious. This is why I will have to polish the surface again in some places to achieve the result I am looking for. Finally, even though I spend a lot of time polishing this paint, I never managed to get a perfectly smooth surface. So I sanded it with steel wool and I redonned the whole plane with AK true metal. I put a small amount of paste with a brush, I spread it with the finger and I finish by polishing with the cotton. At this point, I thought I had done the hardest. Big mistake. I found the fixed landing gear assembly fragile. That's why I added lengths of evergreen strips to insert them in the holes I dug in the fuselage. In this way, I hope to ensure the strength of the landing gear. It was with the landing gear that I had the biggest problems. I had to reinforce the legs with metal rods and add some length, so that they could hold on the fuselage and wings. I admit that sometimes I felt some form of loneliness. Finally, I went through. Parts like the rear stand are fragile. I always reinforce them with a metal tube. Although some parts of the model have caused me some concern, I must admit that the decals are perfect, fine and responding well to softener. The motto of this squadron was "Sing and Fight". I replaced the windshield with rhodoid cut to the right size because the original piece did not please me. All I have to do is paint the figure, first black, then zenithal white, then the flight suit, and then the skin. I made the details of the face with very fine acrylic pen. I finish with a wash, a dry brush and a matte varnish.